However, he's 0-3 throughout his time at Georgia Tech, but looking to get a win here in the ACC tournament. In his backcourt, Nate George playing extremely well. Baye Ndongo, both sophomores, are members of the All-ACC honor.
Yeah, Ndongo at 14 and 9 during the regular season. George at 6.5 assists per game. Gets it off for Powell, dips that shoulder and goes in strong for 2. And the first basket today by Duncan Powell, the 6'8 junior.
And Duncan Powell started the last 14 games for Georgia Tech and has really played great basketball since being inserted into the starting lineup.
Virginia at 15 and 16 after dropping a 14-point decision at Syracuse on Saturday. An up and down regular season. Day Ames off on the first jump shot of the day. But a team capable of getting very hot. They hit 11 threes when they beat Georgia Tech in their first game. A look at the starting lineup here for the Yellow Jackets. And we talked about Nathan George, a guy at 6.5 assists per game. Honorable mention, All-ACC, and the #1 assist man in the conference.
And gets one on that possession to Baye Ndongo, who's able to get a basket early. So we've seen the sophomore for Georgia Tech step up early. As we look at the Virginia starting 5, Isaac McKneely, who misses on that one, the leading scorer in the middle of the lineup, 14 points per game.
He gets 14. Saunders gets 11. Those are the only double-figure guys for the Cavaliers. Powell, who hit that first basket, trying to back his way into the paint. That one slapped away, actually lost it. He lost it himself, and he turns it over. And these teams met once during the regular season. It was early in February. McKneely had 20. Day Ames had 18. Virginia rolled in that one in Charlottesville, 75-61.
That was actually on February the 8th, which is now affectionately known as Tony Bennett Day. So when you think about that, there's a lot of emotion for Virginia playing that game at home against Georgia Tech. And Ron Sanchez told us pregame they had a lot of emotion. They needed to be able to find that again as McKneely's able to knock down the 3-ball.
41% beyond the three-point line for the junior from West Virginia, who has tended to run hot and cold. Did not have a good game at Syracuse in that finale, as he was just 3 for 10, but he can get hot. Powell giving it up here to Mustaf, and he'll turn it over. Brody on a run. Saunders out in front. He'll draw the foul. Elijah Saunders, the junior, will take the hit.
Isaac McKneely, who led the ACC in three-point percentage, 41%, gets a great look, knocks it down, and McKneely has been much more aggressive as of late. The latter part of the season, he's looking for his opportunities more. Early in his career, he would have turned down shots like that to move, play the offense, but now he is looking to fire earlier in the shot clock, and it has helped this Virginia team become more efficient on the offensive end.
So if you're teaching proper form and mechanics on how to shoot a jump shot, just look at that last one by McKneely, right? I mean, that's picture perfect.
It is picture perfect, and of course he has the best guy to help him on the bench, and Kyle Guy, who leads Virginia in all-time field goal percentage, three-point field goal percentage. So I'm sure those two have gotten a number of battles in practice shooting the 3-ball.
Terry trying to take that baseline around Ames and slapped away, and no deflection after that. Let's go back to that jump shot again, because if you're teaching a 9-year-old kid the proper way to shoot a jump, just take this clip and run it.
Well, you start with the feet, the footwork, to be able to get the inside foot down and then power up on the outside foot, but to follow through the release. Back to beef, what we used to talk about back in the day. Balance, eyes, elbow, follow through.
See, it still sticks.
It still sticks.
Right. It'll never leave.
A life lesson.
It's incredible. There are a lot of us out there who are like, how come I didn't run into somebody to teach me exactly what you just said? That would have done me absolutely no good anyway. Saunders a little bit too strong. And Georgia Tech on the run. Georgia Tech with only 8 scholarship players available. They've really been beaten up this year. Terry off the mark. And he's a big key for them at 15 points a game.
But the odd thing is they've been better without the players. You consider they've won 8 of their last 12 games. They've gotten much better down the stretch coming into the ACC tournament. Started out 2-6 in ACC play, but finished strong, and they've done it with, very few of their players available.
Ames on the drive, and he's on the line too, and he'll turn it over. That's their first turnover of the ball game. We go to that injury list for Damon Stoudamire. And of course, was a great player in the day, played in an Arizona team and went to the Final Four. And the players that he has lost to that injury bug.
And you consider the players he's lost. Kowacie Reeves was a leader for them, missed 25 games. Luke O'Brien, Javion McCollum was a starter coming over from Oklahoma. They were expecting a lot of. Mustaf missed time with a foot injury, Lance Terry. So, and when Virginia played against Georgia Tech on February the 8th, they were not at 100%. So Damon Stoudamire looking forward to this opportunity to be able to play Virginia with this team at full strength.
You get Yellow Jackets, you go to Charlottesville, and it's Tony Bennett Day. You're like, okay, we'll try another day. George on a good drive will lay it in. The honorable mention, all ACC.
But Damon Stoudamire challenged Nate George earlier this year, especially with all the injuries, to become more aggressive offensively, looking to score. He's, of course, we know the leading assist man in the ACC is 6.5 per game, but he wanted them to put more points on the board, and George has responded, had 4 straight 20-point games in ACC play.
Saunders gets a great look and not a kind rim. Mustaf pulling his way through, and it comes free. Unable to get a good shot away. And here's McKneely. Saunders again. They move it quickly and good defense. It was George coming out of nowhere.
And George fortunate on that one because he's already playing with 1 foul. Damon Stoudamire cannot afford for him to get one, but does a great job getting his hand on the basketball and not committing a foul.
Mustaf, you talk about a determined drive, but guess who stayed home and blocked it? That was Day Ames with the deflection. And Rowe will set it up now for the Cavaliers. Saunders again. Rowe wide open. He sinks it from three-point land.
And you can't leave any of these Virginia shooters when you consider Day Ames, Rowe, and of course McKneely, who shot 41% from 3. You have dangerous shooters. You mentioned earlier, OB, they made 11 threes in the first matchup versus Georgia Tech, and they're off to a great start here as well.
They're talking about how do you develop a picture.
Stoudamire said, I want to change things up, so he decided to make sure that they were breaking their huddles with a different word and mantra. It is connected. He said when there's a sense of urgency, you have to be connected because everyone has to be locked in. Nathan George as well mentioned how these guys have been able to step up for one another on the defensive end. They're moving with one another as well, so that's how they're staying connected, but also feels like they can connect in this tournament, and said they are very dangerous indeed.
Moved it downstairs very nicely to Powell there for his second bucket. And he has 4 quick points. And Georgia Tech in the paint. Already a nice little advantage.
And that's an area of concern for Virginia. They gave up 42 points in the paint to Syracuse on Saturday and allowed the Orange to shoot 60% from the field. So one of the things Ron Sanchez wants to make sure he cleans up is what Virginia's doing on the defensive end, but off to a good start offensively.
Rowe dropping in too close in. He has 5 points. George for Powell again. He'll launch, but well short. Rebound knocked around, a scrum for that. And Ndongo hitting the deck, and a tie-up on the play with 13:36 to go. It'll go the opposite way. Virginia ball. Ron Sanchez, the interim head coach, of course, replacing the 3-time National Coach of the Year, Tony Bennett, on October 18th. So late by the time he became the interim guy.
Well, and when you consider that he's taken over a team that is a very young team, that added to the circumstances. When you consider there are no graduate transfers, only 1 senior that's in the rotation for Virginia. That's Tane Murray at the top of the key. So a young team by all facets in today's college basketball game.
Buchanan gets his own miss. He was knocked to the baseline. They'll swing for Rowe. Ndongo coming in to spoil that pass. Now Virginia, if they beat Georgia Tech, they will face the #1 seed and the #1 team in the country. The Duke Blue Devils at 12 noon tomorrow. The Blue Devils beat Virginia by 18 back in the middle of February in Charlottesville. McKneely off the curl. Can't get that one to drop. As mentioned, Georgia Tech with wins against Louisville, and Louisville is number 21, and Clemson in an overtime game when they were in the top 25. So they have a couple of very impressive wins. Powell dipping that shoulder. It won't fall. Kofi with the rebound.
Baye Ndongo putting pressure on Virginia to make sure they keep a body on him. Every time a shot goes up, he's attacking the offensive glass. Something that Virginia has to be mindful of. They already got one offensive rebound. Looking for more.
Ndongo, third team All-ACC.
Averaged a double-double in ACC play. Only he and Eddie Lampkin doing so. Baye Ndongo playing his best basketball as of late. For Damon Stoudamire, we mentioned, Georgia Tech won 8 of their last 12 games. And when you think about the fact that they've lost so many different players, Xavier McCallum, a starter, but they continue to get better as the season went along, OB. And you've got to give Damon Stoudamire a lot of credit for the way he's kept this team together through their adversity.
Georgia Tech winning the ACC tournament here in Charlotte on 2 occasions in 1990 and 1993. They beat Carolina in 93, beat Virginia in 1990 in this city.
And then the most outstanding player of that 1993 tournament is now on the staff for Georgia Tech. It will be one James Forrest in the building today. Talk with the most outstanding player from 1993. I was in that tournament, OB, but James Forrest was the guy. And when you consider the Blue Devils coming into this building, you're talking about a significant fan base. However, I believe we're going to have a big-time showing in our next game of Carolina Blue.
No doubt.
Think about the state of North Carolina. Duke is the national brand, but in this state, I believe Carolina is the brand. Most of the young players that grow up in the hoop state, which North Carolina is, want to play for the Tar Heels for college basketball.
Well, North Carolina gave Duke a serious run to a point in Chapel Hill. They had a 7-point lead with about 15 minutes to go. Murray lines up a long one and knocks it down.
Tane Murray, the senior, being honored on senior night for Virginia, getting off to a good start, knocking down a 3. And this is the key for Virginia. When they make threes, they normally have success. We mentioned they made 11 3-point field goals against Georgia Tech in the first matchup. One of the very few double-figure wins that Virginia had in ACC play.
It's Terry, nice spin move, but can't finish it. It kicks right back to him for a long one. He misses the 3. So that was a tough 7 seconds for him.
Yeah, Terry, normally a relatively good shooter. Both his 3-point shots have been short in this game. Normally a sign of lack of legs, but I'm sure Terry very well rested at this point. But he's dealt with a number of injuries throughout this year. Only missed 3 games, but hasn't played at 100%.
Yeah, the only Georgia Tech player remaining from Josh Pastner's last team. Shot clock a factor, down to 4. Ames got a look at it. Got to get a shot in the air. Steps back, 3. That missed badly. Yellow Jackets trying to push it a bit, but all of their points have been coming in the paint so far. Up top for Mustaf, the 6'5 freshman from Maryland, slamming on the brakes. Can't hit that. His dad, of course, started Maryland, was a first-round NBA draft pick. He passed away last October.
Yeah, lost him in October, and Damon Stoudamire was truly had big expectations for Jaden Mustaf throughout this year. Of course, going through that tragedy absolutely slowed him down in his progress. But he is noted that Damon and this Georgia Tech family have absolutely been there as a support system for him throughout the tragedy in the fall.
A lot of talent. He started 7 or 8 games early in the season, missed a bunch of games with a foot injury. As the injury bug continued to bite the Yellow Jackets all season long. Foul deep in the corner. Shot clock inside 10.
That's bad spacing. You can't run right over. Lance Terry runs to the corner and brings his defender. That's an immediate. Damon Stoudamire just as perplexed as I am. Why would you bring your. Okay, so Duncan Powell has a mismatch here. There's nothing you can do there other than bring another defender to the party, and you've already in that coffin corner.
That was kind of rude on the spin. It's going to be a shot clock violation, and Ndongo couldn't get it off, and they've turned it over 3 times.
And that was a possession that was going nowhere for Georgia Tech. They're fortunate to only get away with a shot clock violation on that one in comparison to it being points on the other end for Virginia off of a turnover.
Virginia in the blue. Brody gives it up. Here's Saunders off the fake. Saunders is open. He's missed a couple of ones like that. And Georgia Tech won for their last 8. George trying to feed downstairs. It's knocked away. Intended for Baye Ndongo, but it never got there, really.
Give Andrew Rhodey a lot of credit. Undersized in comparison to Ndongo. However, he fights the battle down there, forcing the turnover, giving Virginia the basketball right back.
Ames on a penetration. Back for Buchanan, a one-hander. Boy, he got a terrific look.
Yeah, you can't ask for a better look than that. I'm not sure why he won't just shoot the mid-range jump shot. Blake Buchanan can absolutely make that in comparison to going to the one-hand push shot.
Buchanan at 6'11". Ndongo again, and he'll draw the foul. He takes a hard hit. Down he goes to the deck. And he'll be up to shoot. And at the 8:21 mark, he gets a helping hand from George to get to his feet. And the foul will go on Tane Murray.
Obi, we can see the emphasis from Damon Stoudamire is to get the basketball inside. Baye Ndongo carving out some space. And a nice find to get him an opportunity. The hard foul, but sending him to the free throw line, forcing him to earn those 2 points in comparison to giving up an easy bucket.
Sophomore from Senegal at the line, 65% shooter. He's had a nice year. He had 12 double-doubles, 4 games of at least 20 and 10. One against NC State. He went off for 29 and 17 rebounds.
He's been spectacular, especially late in the season. Damon Stoudamire has been able to rely on him, and really one of the very few bigs they have available when you consider the lack of size that they have in available players. But you look at the double-doubles and everything he's been able to do throughout his last 15 games in ACC play. He really is a difference maker for Georgia Tech.
Top 5 rebounder in the conference. And the first points by either side in over 3 minutes, so it got chilly. And 13-12 Virginia. Virginia the 9 seed, the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech the 8 seed. Many times it's one of the best games in a tournament like this, the 8-9 game.
The 8-9 game is one that you always look for because both teams have had the opportunity to prepare for each other. You've gotten 4 days to be able to work at it. And the 8-9 game, in my opinion, is an advantage because you know your first 2 opponents. You're going to take on the #1 seed. And of course, if you're trying to make a run to the title, who better to face early than the #1 team? If you can beat the #1 team, then you can win the championship.
I guess there are 2 different ways of looking at that. I guess one thing is, yeah, it's great. It's opportunity. The other way of looking at it is it's the best team in the country, maybe.
That's true, but if you're going to win an ACC tournament, you're going to have to beat the best team in the country at some point.
True enough. Ames, Euro stepping inside, and that won't drop. And Powell tried to save it, and a timeout was called and granted to Georgia Tech. So we'll take the break. 7:22 left. First half. Day number 2.
Mover blocker offensive system was, and you see as 5 different Georgia Tech defenders have eyes on the ball handler and Isaac McKneely off of the DHO. Blake Buchanan is allowed to set a flare screen for Tane Murray, who knocks down the 3 ball. But this is a staple. We've seen so many different players. Joe Harris, Malcolm Brogdon, Justin Anderson, Kyle Gott, so many different guys getting looks off of that. But it's the misdirection that throws guys off because you have to pay so much attention to McKneely that you allow Tane Murray to get a wide open look on the opposite side.
McKneely at 41% beyond the 3-point line. Meanwhile, Georgia Tech just stuck offensively. Mustaf tried to get inside. Here's Powell. McKneely right with him. Terry, who's been really quiet. This is 15 points a game. Shot clock to 2. Mustaf a fall away. Good tight defense again by the Cavaliers.
Obi, there was a note in the great Mike Stamis's Georgia Tech game notes. Of course, moves to SID for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has not scored over 66 points against Virginia in this 13-game losing streak.
Wow.
And so when you consider Virginia's defense has been its best against the Ramblin' Wreck, they have bottled Georgia Tech up.
Saunders in the paint, and he'll draw the foul. 6:28 left in half number one. The Big 12 bracket.
That fun fact I just gave you.
Are you taking back the fun fact?
I'm adding to it. It's not just the last 13 that Virginia has won. It's the last 21 meetings in this series. They have not scored more than 66 points against Virginia. Had 61 in the matchup earlier this year.
Saunders at the line, up to 17-12 Virginia. This is their biggest lead so far today.
And Damon Stoudamire is saying to our director, Griff, get that camera off me. I've only coached against Virginia 3 times. I got nothing to do with that.
Not all of me.
Those 18 prior to me arriving in the flats.
Funny how the new guy has to wear it too, though, right?
Yes, he does.
Very little to do with it. Kofi collecting that loose ball, and another turnover here for the Yellow Jackets. They have 6. Swooping inside, so he gets it done on both ends.
And Kofi got off to a great start for Virginia this year. Slowed down, hit a little bit of that freshman wall, but playing good basketball down the stretch. Was in double figures in that matchup versus Georgia Tech the first time.
The freshman, he rarely turns it over too. He's very good with the ball. Powering inside, the lay-in by Ndongo.
So, Obi, this is something that you and I saw for the first time against Pittsburgh. Virginia went to a switching defense. Of course, you understand the way that they played defensively forever. They brought it out brand new on a big Monday for Pittsburgh. Ended up winning that game on the road. And that was in the midst of a 3-game winning streak. But that's one of the things they've stuck with since is just switching defensively, allowing their bigs to go out and try to deny those opportunities, just like Elijah Saunders did there with Nate George.
George with a miss. He's 33% outside the 3. Georgia Tech finally got back on the scoreboard after a lengthy drought. And within 5. Saunders again, barely nicking the rim. And he played just 16, 17 minutes at Syracuse in the regular season finale after he got elbowed in the mouth. Oh, the stuff by Ndongo coming out of nowhere to slam it down.
Well, when Georgia Tech struggles to score, Baye Ndongo's been the guy. He's got both the baskets to end the drought for the Ramblin' Wreck. And even though Georgia Tech's having such a hard time scoring, Virginia unable to separate.
Knows.
Absolutely, you got to go box out, especially when Baye Ndongo is in the painted area. You cannot allow him room to operate as he goes over the top of Saunders for the highlight finish to make it a one-possession game.
You see why people talk about him, what an exciting player he can be. The sophomore from Senegal. He can also step out every once in a while and hit a 3-pointer.
Yes, he can. He's very skilled. Damon Stoudamire really loves his progression now he's made that sophomore jump.
Saunders with the give, a reach and a foul. They'll get Terry for that, as this one's tightened up. 19-16. Virginia at one point was 1-6 in conference play after they dropped the game to Louisville in the middle of January. So to earn a first-round bye here in the ACC tournament, that is some achievement.
Yeah, it really is. And when you consider both these teams, if McKneely steps behind the screen, fires away from about 25 feet and knocks it down. But both these teams got off to rough starts, but you got to give both their coaches a lot of credit for sticking with it through adversity and getting their team to play hard. Damon Stoudamire, of course, getting his team to 500 in ACC play, and Ron Sanchez winning the 5-way tie for 9th place and a record of 8-12 in ACC play.
Terry trying to get heated up and drills a 3-pointer. The 5th-year guy who scored over 1,300 points. A triple for him, and again 15 points a game. If they're going to win today, he has to show up.
They're really going to need production from he and Nate George in the backcourt, as well as a strong performance from Ndongo up front.
McKneely on the drive, and a reach and a foul. We've seen a lot of Isaac over the years. That's a guy that I think the deeper he is from the basket, the better he is. He wants it at about 25 to 28. Gorgeous day here in Sharp. Now back in Charlotte, 3:23 to go first half. Virginia and Georgia Tech tipping off the day. And we've got North Carolina and Notre Dame in game number 2. Notre Dame advancing with a lot of controversy on a foul or no foul. What should it have been? Didn't look like a foul by most accounts, and Notre Dame squeaks by.
The date with the Tar Heels in Charlotte. I can tell you right now, OB, it's going to be a lot of Carolina blue in the building here this afternoon.
Without a doubt. Ndongo lunging. Ames will have to fire it up there. He got it off in time, but could not hit the shot. 22-19 Virginia. Ndongo just had a spectacular dunk moments ago. Oh, what a nice job using a window for 2.
But you like the action that Georgia Tech is running to be able to get Ndongo into space. It's feeding him on the post, but it runs the uphill DHO with Nate George. George is now putting it right where his teammate can catch and be effective.
Baye Ndongo with 10 already, along with 4 rebounds.
And Nate George with 4 assists already. So they're getting what they need on the offensive end.
Ooh. Nothing but net for McKneely again.
As is Virginia when Isaac McKneely is playing as such. You see no hesitation at all coming off those screens looking to fire.
He has 11. George rifling the pass. Powell in and out. Boy, that was in the cylinder and it kicked out.
A great find from George, getting downhill, attacking the paint.
McKneely really heating up as he is prone to do. He had 23 against Villanova, 27 against Wake in an 8-point win in late February. Kofi lines it up. That's a round and out. These rims a little bit unkind here in game number 1 today. 25-21 Virginia. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Principal. Let our expertise round out yours. That is as true as it gets.
It really is. It's a thing of beauty to see Isaac McKneely shoot the basketball, especially when he's confident in hunting shots. He's got to be so aggressive that he even takes some bad shots every now and then. Force the coaches to tell you, okay, maybe we didn't need that one, but there are very few times where they even have to say that to McKneely because he can make tough shots.
Terry to drive it, contact there, and a whistle. As he got the shot in the air with 1:17 left before halftime, fouled by McKneely, his second. So 2 fouls on the junior. And he is going to have to get off the floor here as Day Ames will replace him. So he doesn't pick up a third before the break.
Yeah, 1:17 remaining. You should be able to handle business until the second half and allow McKneely to be able to sit on the side and watch. A great job by Kofi there, getting a hand in the passing lane. And this is where Virginia's been opportunistic and trying to run throughout the season. Not settling, especially when they have numbers and advantage. Trying to take advantage of it.
Turnovers a bit of a problem for Damon Stoudamire's team. Georgia Tech with 7. Quick inbounds, and Kofi with a miss.
That was a quick shot by Kofi. I don't know if that's the one that Ron Sanchez wanted, especially off of the underneath inbounds. A turnover.
George, and a whistle, no basket as he's hit before the shot. He is fouled with under a minute to go. And that'll go on Tane Murray, his second. A non-shooting foul, so Terry to put it in. They want Ndongo again. He'll draw the double. Cross court. Ustav to the foul line, keeps on moving and drops in 2.
Ustav just showing off his size and strength, scoring over top of Day Ames in the painted area. Georgia Tech makes it a one-possession game. Virginia should be able to get close to the last shot, about a 5-second differential between the game clock and the shot clock.
Knocked away. Rowe will scoop it up. Shot clock to 12. Kofi on Powell, looking to make a move. Got to get a shot in the air now. Down to 3 on the shot clock. Ames with a 2 and short. Time to get one in the air here for the Yellow Jackets. George on the drive. Buchanan with the block at the horn. That's how the first half comes to an end. Virginia and Georgia Tech locked up in a tight one. And the officials are going to stop for a moment. Let's see if they put any more time on.
It's a smart play by Nathan George to attack the basket. He recognized once he got the rebound that he had more than enough time to get to the end. But an even better play defensively by Blake Buchanan, denying that opportunity. And they will put about 0.4 seconds on the shot, on the clock, because the basketball is not out of bounds until it hits something out of bounds. They'll go to 0.4 seconds, which is enough time to catch and shoot. 0.3 you have to tip it, but 0.4 you can catch and shoot. So there's still the opportunity for Damon Stoudamire to be able to run something to get a quality look on the underneath out of bounds play.
So 0.4. Yellow Jackets can tip it up. Nathan George will check it in. Opportunity to tie or take the lead here, and they won't get one up there.
No, they are. It's going to be a foul. They'll go looking to see. They'll go look at the monitor to see if the foul happened before the expiration of the clock.
Virginia is convinced that it happened after.
But with 0.4, you only have time to catch and shoot. So the clock starts as soon as it catches the hands. But is there a foul already?
The previous foul is under review to see if the foul contact occurred before the clock got to zeros.
So the problem is, if Buchanan's hand is on the basketball early, then this will not be a foul. However, as you look, Buchanan's right hand goes down on the catch. That's going to be tough. They could very well give free throws for this one. Watch on the catch. The hands are, but the hand is on the basketball at first, and then it rolls down to the wrist. This is going to be dicey because if the hand touches the basketball first, which it did with Buchanan, that's not a foul. So that's on the catch. You only have 0.4 seconds, so there's
foul
not much
occurs
time.
at 0.3. There'll be 2 shots for Georgia Tech, white 31.
So we got 2 shots coming. Virginia with the foul, and that one goes against Buchanan, his second.
Imran Sanchez concerned because if what I saw was correct, Blake Buchanan's hand was on the basketball.
My apologies. Adjust it to 0.1.
Still time left, by the way.
Still time left, but more importantly, you get the free throws. And that's the concern. Unless the officials saw that there was contact as soon as he caught the basketball.
Second day in a row. We've had controversy, this one down the stretch of the first half, not the end of the game, as we saw yesterday in game 1. So Powell with another one coming. And this one can tie the game at 25 with 0.1 showing. He does exactly that. Murray looking to put it in, and that's it. That is the end of the first half at last, and it ends 25-25.
Well, and again, when you consider how each and every one of these games that we've had so far come down to the last minutes, all in one possession.
Shot clock to 10. McKneely cutting through, no pass there. Shot clock down to 3. Here's McKneely again, quick launch, but no. And a whistle as well, just seconds into the second half.
That's the foul you got to stay away from if you're Blake Buchanan. 90 feet away from the opponent's basket. No need to foul. And now, just like that, Buchanan picked up his 3rd foul. And Jacob Kofi going to have to come in and spell him. But again, it's one thing to get your foul as a big man when you're trying to defend your rim. But 90 feet away from the basket, Blake Buchanan too valuable to Virginia to make it commit that foul.
Over the top, Ndongo tied up by McKneely. No basket. The foul came before that.
You can see the adjustment early, though, from Damon Stoudamire, recognizing if Virginia is going to switch, they're going to look inside for Baye Ndongo with a point guard or a smaller guard trying to defend them. And just like that, Nathan George knows exactly where to go with the basketball.
That's 3 fouls on McKneely, by the way.
Oh, and that
foul, yes.
An underneath out of bounds play. Obi, you learned that. We all learned that one early. You take away the basket first. Don't allow that pass to go right inside for the easy layup.
First lead since it was 6-5 for the Yellow Jackets. Rowe with a tip pass out for Saunders. Saunders has had some great looks, but he's been unable to bury them.
He really has, and Rowe actually had a great look there. All he needed was a reverse layup to get the 2 points. He decides to kick it out, and Virginia ends up with the empty possession.
Nathan George, the talented point guard, will get the swing up top. Terry, great ball movement here. Mustaf, airborne, can't finish that. Virginia looking for the win to get back to 500. Right now 15-16. The Yellow Jackets 16-15 for the season. The winner gets the #1 team in the country tomorrow at noon. The Duke Blue Devils on the run and tapped away. And it'll stay right here.
Nate George led Ndongo a little too much on that one. Great play by Rowe to get over and knock it away. Otherwise, that would have been a dunk for Baye Ndongo, who had his steam coming down the floor.
We've talked about the injuries for the Yellow Jackets. Again, just 8 scholarship players for Damon Stoudamire, but that includes Javian McCollum out with a head injury. We haven't touched on him yet, but that's 12 points a game and a really good shooter.
And more importantly, a veteran presence. You're talking about still a young group for Georgia Tech as Mustaf is able to come in and clean up the mess off of the first miss by Baye Ndongo in this game. But with 2 defenders there trying to deny Ndongo, no one there that can put a body on Mustaf.
Kofi back for Ames. Day Ames finds Saunders again. He's 0 for 6. McKneely, shot clock to 5. Georgia Tech's come out with a lot of energy defensively. Flipped up a no by McKneely. A big tangle for the rebound. It comes right back to Virginia.
And that's 2 Yellow Jackets fighting for the basketball. Ends up allowing Virginia to come up with the offensive rebound.
McKneely with that quick release of 3. Absolutely buries that. He has 14.
But those second chance points are a byproduct of 2 Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets fighting over the basketball. No communication there forces them to turn it over.
Ndongo, Saunders with the foul, trying to prevent him to go to that iron again. He had a sensational dunk in the first half. 29-28 Georgia Tech. Now North Carolina. I thought he was going to drop like 30 on Duke the other day. He had 15 pretty quick ones. He was really rolling.
And got off to a great start in the second half. But after that, the Blue Devils just pretty much took RJ out of the game, forced others to try to beat him. And they were unable to do so. But a big win for Duke. Because, again, without that, they're the 3rd seed in the ACC tournament.
Amazing.
Yeah, but, I mean, you got 3 teams with 18 or more wins in ACC play. That's never happened before. The ACC went to 20 games in 2019-2020 season. But you've got a record 19 wins by the Blue Devils, and then you've got both Clemson and Louisville with 18 wins.
And Clemson, the only team to beat them in the ACC. #1 Duke. Rowe will fire, but that won't drop. 1 and done for Virginia. George trying to push it. Powell going inside, a little too much on that pass, and went for the save, and an outstanding play.
Yeah, that was a great play by Lance Terry there to be able to get to the basketball, but in midair throw it off of Tame Murray. Forgive me, off of Saunders. Look at this. But to throw it off of Saunders and not get hit by the basketball going out of bounds.
Stylish, wasn't it?
It was very stylish there. Heads up play by Lance Terry.
I give that an 8.7.
You got to hold up your cards.
Powell. George again. Powell slithering in. A little bit too strong, and another whistle. 16-12 on the clock here in the second half of game number 1 of round 2. Ron Sanchez, if Virginia beats Georgia Tech, he takes on Duke tomorrow.
Of course, Ron Sanchez, no stranger of coaching in this building. Played a number of exhibition games here, as well as showcases when he was the head coach at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte for 5 years. Very familiar with the city, of course, and looking to have some success here with the Hoos.
Home of the ACC. Powell in close, but no, can't finish it.
But the second time that they've been able to get the basketball right under the basket on underneath out of bounds play.
Going to get a third crack at it, and that one works. And they've got the biggest lead, the Yellow Jackets, to 33-28. Georgia Tech just dominating in the paint.
That's been a struggle for Virginia throughout this season, is getting hurt with points in the paint. We mentioned 42 against Syracuse. They actually gave up 50 to an opponent earlier this year.
Buchanan elected not to take the shot, and Virginia loses the basketball. And all the momentum, right? You said yesterday, you and Coach Boeheim were talking about this, that Cooper Flagg deserved the Defensive Player of the Year probably as well.
I think so, for a number of reasons. You start with the fact that he's on the best defensive team in the ACC. He's the best defensive player on that team in the ACC. But from a defensive rating standpoint, he's #1 national.
In the country.
In the country. So how is that guy not Conference Defensive Player of the Year?
Long one around and out by George. And look, a lot of people will say, well, you can't give him everything.
That's not true.
Guess what?
You
give him everything he earned.
Agree.
You know, and he earned
he deserved.
Chucky Hepburn had a great year, too. Great defensive year, tremendous player.
Yes, he did.
But maybe not even the best defender on his team.
Pat Kelsey told us that they made a change defensively is when Louisville got better, is when Terrence Edwards took over that role of guarding the opponent's best player, and he made them a better defensive team. To me, that means that he's the best defensive player on the team.
I think it was a great point, and I know a lot of people say, you can't give him everything. Yes, you can, if he earned it. The all-defensive team. It's a great group anyway. Chucky Hepburn, an electrifying player. That shot will go, and a whistle, too.
But how about the concentration of Isaac McKneely? And the thing is, he knows, Obi, well before he gets to the basketball, he knows he's shooting this basketball. That's the difference in McKneely this year and the years past. At this point, he already knows. When it touches my hand, I'm letting it fly. And Lance Terry, caught off guard and chasing him, runs right into McKneely, who misses the free throw. How did that happen?
How do you do that? You know, after a shot like that, he's an 82% foul shooter.
Yes.
So Georgia Tech by 2. They turn it over. Saunders out in front. A dribble down and the slam.
But let's think about that three by McKneely. And just like that, Virginia going a 5-0 run to make it a tie game once again. And Georgia Tech turnover.
Downstairs on the spin, up and in by Sutton, the 6'8 freshman with his first bucket.
And that's a nice play by Sutton. I thought that Virginia did a great job sealing him behind the backboard. However, Sutton getting to that left hand, and the jump hook allows him to put Georgia Tech back in front.
Isaac McKneely, who's in some foul trouble at 3. Another catch, another shot. Not this time. Well, you're shocked when he misses one the way he's been going today.
Yeah, really, especially moving to his left.
Nathan George, the top assist man in the conference this year. Again, it's Sutton. Gave up the dribble. Terry. Shot clock inside 8 now. As he'll drive it, the scoop. And the tip won't go for Sutton. Rebound, a chase for that.
Great hustle by George to bring that one in. 20 seconds on the shot clock. But they're going to reset the shot clock to actually 30, saying that Virginia had possession of the ball.
Lifted by George. He'll knock down a triple.
Big possession. Give Nathan George a tremendous amount of credit. Chasing down the loose ball and then turning it into second chance points.
George getting 12 points, 6.5 assists a game. He's also an excellent rebounder at 6'3". Brody's pass just kind of floated into no man's land.
No one alerting Lance Terry that Tane Murray was behind him, but you talk about George and his numbers. Only one player nationally has numbers that are rivaling Nate George, and that would be Braden Smith, as George gets another assist to Soiree. But when you consider his 6 is 6, but when you consider the only person that has numbers that rival that is Braden Smith at Purdue, who was the Big Ten Player of the Year. Angels got more on Nate George.
He's absolutely outstanding, but I think I have a fun stat for you too, Corey. You like fun stats? His games with his hair braided, he has 9 of them. He shoots close to 50% from the field, 36% from 3. His hand is all over this game right now. It's a triple-double watch for him. His hair unbraided, though, in the 19 games. He's shooting significantly less at 38%.
And Ndongo with a spectacular rejection. Man, did he get back. And his first block as he closes in on a double-double.
And Baye Ndongo getting back and blocking the attempt by Tane Murray. Lance Terry stepping out of bounds, so is unable to get the possession back. But the great hustle by Baye Ndongo denying an opportunity for Virginia in the open court at Georgia Tech, after allowing Virginia to tie the game at 35, going on a 7-0 run to put some separation between the Yellow Jackets and the Hoos.
ACC tournament able to shed a little more light on a really gifted player like Baye Ndongo, who probably does not get a lot of attention as McKneely can't cash in. 14 points, 9 rebounds a game. All those double-doubles. He's closing in on another one today. At 29 and 17 against NC State, 26 and 13 against Cal. He's had some monster games.
He really has, OB, but he's played his best basketball as of late. When Damon Stoudamire had a full rotation, Baye Ndongo was kind of the guy that was a little left out. But the less players they had, the more spectacular he's been.
Powell working on Rowe, and a foul against Virginia. And we have you covered on Selection Sunday once again. It all starts at 6 Eastern. With SportsCenter on ESPN. Recently got one of the great times of the year. Where are you going to be during all this?
I will be in Milwaukee calling the Oklahoma City Thunder and Milwaukee Bucks game.
Naturally.
on Selection Sunday.
Will probably be your 3rd game of the day, actually. Incredibly enough. You are the busiest basketball analyst alive today.
I carry that with a badge of honor. I really do. And I'm very fortunate that our employer allows me to be able to go different places and have different experiences covering both the ACC, college basketball, and the NBA.
Nicely done by Buchanan inside. We call Corey privately Mr. Sky Priority. Folks at Delta love to see him coming, man.
That's my people, my family.
My peeps are at Delta. That's right. 43-37.
Oh, nice.
Power slam. Good find indeed.
But here's been the problem, OB, for Virginia. They can't keep guys out of the paint. And so Nathan George is now having his way, getting downhill. Duncan Powell filling the lane coming in. And in comparison to waiting, it was like a 7-minute drought for Georgia Tech.
That's right.
But now here in the second half, they've been able to operate very effectively.
Nathan George sharing the sugar. 7 assists for him. 45-37 Georgia Tech. With 10.5 to go here in our very first game of day 2. And coming up, Notre Dame and North Carolina at 2:30 in Charlotte. Back from McKneely. He gets sealed off. Murray with the drive and another rejection by Ndongo. That triggers the break. Terry has it slocked away by Ames.
That was a beautiful pass from George, but heads up by Day Ames to not be fooled by the look away. And speaking of taking another flight to block Tane Murray's attempt, Baye Ndongo, he's been picking on Tane Murray here today. back-to-back rejections.
That is a first-class flight. Terry bullying his way inside, can't finish.
Terry would have been much better served to take that one and drop it off to Ndongo, especially how hard he's worked on the defensive end, allowed him to get a block.
Buchanan, good feed, and Kofi will finish that with the slam.
Yeah. Kofi recognizing the shot blocker's going to jump. The pump fake, and then stepping under for the dunk. And Virginia now with a 4-0 run of their own.
Terry needing some help in for Powell. And Nathan George will walk it up. 6'3" sophomore from Toronto.
George second in the ACC in minutes played. However, first in ACC games, played all 55 minutes in a triple overtime game. Triple overtime win at Clemson. And Duncan Powell is now starting to get going on the offensive end of the floor as well. 15 points for Powell, shooting 60% from the field.
He just finished second in voting for the ACC Sixth Man of the Year. Jeremiah Wilkinson of Cal won that. Pull-up pop and off target by Ames. One and done.
And George isn't going to wait. He's going to look for opportunities to keep the foot on the gas pedal for Georgia Tech.
You better have your head up, too.
You absolutely have. He's the type of passer that will take your teeth out if you're not paying attention.
George wanted to step back. Powell has it. Shot clock to 9. Powell so strong inside, and another basket for him. He's having a day.
He's having a great day, and he's been able to do it off of dribble penetration, just going at Virginia defenders and isolating on the side, getting right to his spot.
Yellow Jackets with their biggest lead today. McKneely, it opens up a bit, but he can't hit it on the reverse. The follow is up and good for Buchanan with 8:23 to go. And we have a timeout. We'll take the break as well. Georgia Tech really grabbing hold of a game that was tied at halftime. Meanwhile, North Carolina fans.
Charlotte, Georgia Tech right now with an 8-point lead over Virginia, in big case because of Duncan Powell. You can call him the bounce back king. He went 0 for 11 against Wake Forest, but it's what he does in those following games. I'm not sure if it's a shoot around or a pep talk, but he averages double figures in the following game. Going back to Syracuse, he scored 2 points, 13 against SMU. Clemson, he had 9. Florida State, he had 20. BC, 3 points, and Pitt, 26. And right now, he is on his way to another stellar game here for the first round, guys.
He has really shown up here in this one. That's exactly right, Angel. And he had a 23.10 rebound game against NC State, so he can really leave his mark on a game.
He really can. Just like Angel Gray. Obi, how great is to have Angel back with us and giving us in-depth stuff about, first off, we're talking about braiding hair. Let's go back to that. Let's go back to the Nate George hair braided versus wearing the fro. Right. Analytics.
Powell is shot clock down to 2. A fall away. He drills it.
And Duncan Powell has found himself on a heater right now. Virginia has no answer for Duncan Powell and how they can keep him out of the scoring column. Up to 19 points here so far this afternoon.
13 in the second half. The major reason the Yellow Jackets have the lead at the 7.5-minute mark by 10. Shot clock at 7. Kofi back outside. Ames is open. And it comes right to Terry. And Virginia, in their first game of the ACC tournament, is in trouble.
Yeah, Virginia's struggling now to put the ball in the basket. More importantly, struggling to try to contain Duncan Powell, who's found his way on the offensive end.
Not to mention Nathan George might get into double figures again in assists. He forced that shot. Rebound comes right to Saunders. Cavaliers on the move. Saunders out for Kofi's open. He'll take it strong and draw the foul. He elected not to shoot from about 14 feet. He does draw the foul with 6:45 to go. So a 10-point lead for Georgia Tech.
Job done for the Orange. 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals for JJ, who was putting on for his hometown Syracuse squad.
Isn't that nice? When you can do it for your hometown, and it'll be Kofi at the line. Jacob Kofi, 6'10" freshman from Seattle. 76% at the line. He front rims the first one. Powell, I think you can add to that list of stars so far here in Charlotte. What he's doing so far, 19 points. He's made 8 of 12. George, by the way, 9 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists for the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, Nate George on triple-double watch now. And again, the 7 assists is something that's probably going to be the easiest part for him that you would expect. Going in there and getting 9 rebounds. You don't often expect that from a point guard, but averages over 4 rebounds per game. So that's one of the areas where Damon Stoudamire leans on his point guard. Cavaliers
need a hot hand right now. Down 51-42. Driving inside, and Day Ames will pick up the whistle. He'll draw the foul. Well, there's no doubt about it, the Southeastern Conference is loaded. And here's the tournament bracket. Just feels like everywhere you look, there's one tough team ranked in the top 20.
That is going to be an absolute gauntlet when you consider what's going to go down in Nashville this year for that SEC Men's Tournament Championship. The concern is, do those teams beat each other up so much that they don't have enough left in the tank when they get to the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think it's a great point, because look at the tail end. Auburn losing 2 in a row at the very end. Is that just, you know, running out of gas?
Well, and they lost to very good teams. They lost at Texas A&M, and you and I did a game at Texas A&M earlier. You know how difficult it is to play there. And then they lost at Alabama. So when you no, they lost at home. Was that a home game?
Home game.
Yeah, home game they lost to Alabama, but in a rivalry, that's always going to be tough as well. So Auburn's still one of the elite teams nationally, but there are so many of them in the SEC this year.
Yeah, my pick in the SEC tournament is Alabama. Shot clock to 5. Here's George rolling inside, and Ndongo got it up there, and he hit it.
And the 8th assist for George. But those two have a great chemistry, great connection. They both got a tremendous amount of experience last year as freshmen under Damon Stoudamire in his first year, and now have made that sophomore year and sophomore jump.
Ndongo almost came up with another block, but just a split second late. So 53-46 Georgia Tech. Powell back for George. George, Powell, and Ndongo have been the stars today for the Yellow Jackets as they look to play again tomorrow against #1 Duke. Mustaf strong inside, but left it just to the right of the rim.
Ndongo with another offensive rebound and putback. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 blocks for Baye Ndongo, who's already starting to put his resume together for all ACC tournament team.
George with the rebound. So 55-46 the Yellow Jackets, and George will take his time here. Point guard from Canada. They try and get him with a double. He breaks free. Here's Powell again. Nice pass. Can't convert that, but a foul as Mustaf takes the hit. That was with just 6 on the shot clock.
And Mustaf does a great job getting himself into position to help out Powell as he drives baseline. And going to run into 2 Virginia defenders. Mustaf gets right into that dunker spot. Gives Powell an outlet and finds his way at the free throw line.
Breon Saunders, by the way. Mustaf missed 6 games with a foot injury earlier this season. A Georgia Tech team that's overcome a lot of injuries.
OB, when you come in and you wear that number 3 at Georgia Tech, you're talking about some legends that have put that jersey on. And I don't believe after this year anyone will wear that again, because that number 3 was retired by Dennis Scott. But you think about Dennis Scott wore 3, Travis Best wore 3, the great Stephen Marbury wore 3.
Yeah.
You're talking about some dynamic players.
Look, you remember those Georgia Tech teams in the 90s under Bobby Cremins.
Yeah, I played against those teams.
Played again. I have to remind you for 1 second that was some tough sledding.
And then we go back to 1990 when they won an ACC tournament championship in Charlotte. Lethal Weapon 3 Kenny Anderson,
Yes.
Brian Oliver, and Dennis Scott. Dennis Scott was ACC Player of the Year, averaged 27 points per game that year.
A terrific play by Rowe. Got it in
hustle
front
by
for
both
Ames.
teams.
Yes, Ames able to beat everyone of the basketball.
Oh,
But off the hands of Saunders and out.
after all of that work to turn it over, Day Ames with great effort getting the 50-50 ball. Damon Stoudamire not happy about the fact that his team didn't get it, but Virginia turns it over and gives it right back. And this is where you...
Thank you very much. 57-46 right now, Georgia Tech. Yeah, looking to inbound. They've got a couple of guys having big days, 3 actually. George with 9 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. So he is on the edge of a triple-double. Ndongo is 7th double-double in the last 8 games. And Powell has been a star today as well with 19 points for the Yellow Jackets.
And that's the thing. It's been a balanced effort by Georgia Tech throughout this game, shooting 44% from the field. Virginia only 32%. Difficult to win when you're shooting that poorly, and you can't find a way to stop Duncan Powell, who's now up to 21 points this afternoon.
He said during a timeout a couple of minutes ago, they're not going to be able to beat us with threes if we keep shooting twos and making them. Another whistle here with 2:58 to go. And man, is he doing that. He is now 9 for 14 from the field. And all of those twos. Let's go back to that timeout a moment ago.
Hey, no threes still. They can't beat us on twos. No threes. Hey, y'all two keep getting in that post.
He's not raining twos.
And Duncan Powell, who started his college career at North Carolina A&T here in the state of North Carolina and then went to Sacramento State, now finds himself in a beautiful role with Damon Stoudamire. But he didn't start the beginning of the season. He started the last 14 games. As you mentioned earlier, he was runner-up for ACC Sixth Man of the Year because of his efforts and what he was doing off the bench. But since getting into the starting lineup, over 14 points per game, and has really become a reliable source of offense for Damon Stoudamire.
Well, the Cavaliers in deep trouble of being one and done in the ACC tournament. McKneely right through for 2.
And McKneely getting downhill and is much more than a shooter. Could take more of those opportunities because everyone's trying to run him off the three-point line. Oftentimes could get all the way to the basket and finish.
19-point afternoon for McKneely.
That was a 10-second call. Give McKneely a tremendous amount of credit. As once the clock hits 20 seconds, it's an automatic call. Lee Cassell right on top of it. And if you have not established in the front court, getting not only the basketball but both feet, that is a 10-second violation.
Super job by this crew. Lee Cassell, Tommy Morrissey, and Mark Schnurr. Saunders will hand off for McKneely. Back for Saunders. He's had a really tough shooting day. 5 to shoot for Virginia. McKneely working on Powell. Got in close and draws the foul. 1:46 to go. So getting updated on the other conference tournaments as we come to you from the ACC tournament in Charlotte. Championship week. One of the great weeks of the year. Big 12 men's championship. Houston, the #1. And right now, the #2 team in the country behind Duke.
Yeah, when you consider Houston now 2 years in the Big 12, 2 times Big 12 champion. Kelvin Sampson, 2-time Big 12 Coach of the Year. You got to think that's a pretty good addition to the conference with your scene.
Just a bit.
With Houston. With Kelvin Sampson, of course, looking to get back to the Final Four and possibly win a national championship, which is really the only thing missing on his Hall of Fame resume.
A lot of people think this might be his year with that team.
Yeah, I mean, when you start thinking about Duke, Auburn, you've got to throw Houston in there as one of the elite teams nationally. In Virginia, ratcheting up the pressure, forcing a timeout from the Rambling Wreck. Damon Stoudamire not happy with the way his team is handling the pressure. In the quarterfinal.
Yellow Jackets by 9. Gustav and a foul by Rowe. Stops the clock with exactly 90 seconds to go. His second foul. Yellow Jackets, not a good shooting team, not a good foul shooting team at 68%, 1-and-1 time here. Actually have not been many free throws in this game.
And that's a byproduct of Virginia doesn't foul much, and that's one of the areas where when you get late game situations, you find yourself still with the ability to be able to foul and have teams in 1-and-1 in comparison to being the double bonus, so it works in their favor if you don't make free throws. Mustafa Pure on the first one.
Showing you Ron Sanchez there, the interim head coach. Virginia looking for a head coach.
Well, if this is the last game for Ron Sanchez, for Jason Williford, for the crew that's been part of what Virginia has built over the last 16 years, as a proud alum, I will say that I'm very happy that they were there. And more importantly, great people that have represented the University of Virginia extremely well. Of course, Ronnie Wadman, Orlando Vandross, and you've got the two legends, both Kyle Guy and Isaiah Wilkins on the bench. Isaiah Wilkins, Defensive Player of the Year. Kyle Guy, whose number most likely will be retired at the University of Virginia soon. So a lot of great people over there on that bench right now. And if this is their last game, I want to take my hat off to each and every one and thank them for what they have done.
I'm taking mine off too, because it's not just something you say. You know, you hear that every once. Oh, they're great guys, but these are really terrific people, and we've got a chance to deal with them a lot. All through the great years of Tony Bennett. Tony himself, of course, Ames on the drive will lay that in. But this is a terrific group of guys. And a tie-up with 1:02 left.
And they're not done fighting. Down 9, 1:02 remaining here. The possession arrow does go back to Georgia Tech, but Virginia is able to flip the possession arrow, so if they get another tie-up, it will go their direction.
Powell gets it clear for Terry. Really, he's been one of the offensive names of the year for the Yellow Jackets, but they really haven't needed a whole lot from Lance Terry, because so many other guys have filled those gaps today.
They really have. They've had a big three in this game. You talk about George distributing the basketball, Duncan Powell scoring from every different direction, and Baye Ndongo dominating on the interior. Has really been a team effort, but with 3 superstars throughout this game for Georgia Tech.
Terry 72% at the line, gets it back to 10, and he's been held to 4 points today. We talked about the Yellow Jackets being a fly in the ointment, maybe.
Obi, you called this a couple weeks ago. When we started showing the bracket of teams that could really do some damage.
McKneely again. He does bring that with those long jumpers. He'll have to commit another foul to stop it at 43 seconds.
But you brought up, we started showing the bracket, and you said Georgia Tech is a team to keep an eye on during the ACC tournament.
Yep. I know you felt the same way because of who they have beaten. Louisville and Clemson. When you beat the 2 and 3 teams in the conference, now you get Duke coming up, and it didn't go well when they faced them in December. There's a 26-point loss for the Yellow Jackets, but they've been getting better and better. They came in having won 7 out of 10.
They have, and when you consider that this Duke team coming in tomorrow is a new team. Malik Brown is back. However, Jay Lucas is no longer with them. Jay Lucas, associate head coach, is now the head coach at Miami. Small things can alter the chemistry of your team. And so when you think about this Duke team, it's going to be the first time we've seen this version of the Blue Devils tomorrow without one of their coaches on the bench.
Now that said, Duke is a spectacular team. They have perhaps the best player in the country. You and I have covered Cooper Flagg all season long. We're both in agreement he is the best player in America. Certainly the player of the year and the rookie of the year in the ACC. So what's the game plan? Whoever has to face Duke, what is the game plan to knock them off their game if you can?
What you have to do to be able to beat Duke, and of course this came from Duke, you have to be able to beat their switches. You got to, when they switch out defensively and they'll take, their big guys, Kama Malawat, Malik Brown, whoever it may be, You got to have guys that can go make a play. The Blue Devils aren't going to allow you to run your offense. They're disruptive defensively. They're not going to allow you to run your offense. But Georgia Tech has a number of guys that can beat you off the bounce. And they've got guys who can finish on the interior. I look for it to be a different type of game than it was in the blowout the first time these two teams met, because I think Georgia Tech is playing much differently than they did.
Oh, my. Kofi getting to the 10, 62-57. This one's still up in the air here in a timeout.
Maybe a little premature talking about Georgia Tech facing them, as Virginia has made this a 5-point game off of the nice fake DHO by Kofi, and able to get downhill quickly for the dunk. The fake DHO, getting to the rim, finishing off quickly, but more importantly, very little time running off the clock. And we know that Georgia Tech has struggled with the pressure against Virginia. Love the wrinkle by Ron Sanchez, adding the full court pressure into the mix. For examples just like this, when you do get behind, we've seen Virginia teams in the past, when they've gotten behind, really didn't have a way to try to catch up. But this pressure wrinkle by Ron Sanchez, allowing them to stay in this game.
Georgia Tech had a lead of 13 points not that long ago. It was 59-46. Since then, the Cavaliers have gone on an 11-3 run. They've gotten right back in the game.
And again, pressure situation for the Rambling Wreck right here to be able to get the basketball across half court. They've struggled with the pressure from Virginia. We've seen a 10-second call. We've seen turnovers. So Virginia ratcheting it up. And this is one of the things that Ron Sanchez has talked about his team all year. They keep fighting. Against adversity, everything that's gone on, they continue to fight, and they still fighting with 36 seconds remaining.
Bears repeating, the Yellow Jackets are not a good foul shooting team. Just 68%, 36 seconds to go. And Georgia Tech just trying to get it in here. It'll be Lance Terry on the baseline looking for Cutter. And George, they try to wrap him up, and they do.
Okay, so let's remember, on the tie-up possession before, Virginia flipped the arrow. So now the basketball goes back to Virginia on an underneath out-of-bounds play, with an opportunity for them to score again without using much time and make this a one-possession game.
And watch for number 11 in blue, McKneely, as he tries to get free. They stick with him. Here's his long one. Got it! Wow! The inbounds. George trying to bring it up. 2-point game.
But you still can't play it out. Good foul. You can't play it out because there's no shot clock. So you have to foul, send Georgia Tech to the free throw line. But let me tell you right now, OB, there's more pressure on these free throws for Nathan George than there's been throughout this entire game. Look at Isaac McKneely. We've talked about him having at times to take some shots that may not be the best shots, but that's how you build this confidence. Knocking down a long three to make it a 2-point game.
George is 2 for 5 at the line, but hits the first. 27 for McKneely, by the way. And look at the look on the face of Damon Stoudamire.
Let me tell you what, that young man, I shouldn't call him young because he's my age and we're not young anymore, but he's made shots like that. So he knows what that is to opposing team.
Former NBA Rookie of the Year. And 2 for George.
But still, enough time for Virginia. Day-Day aims to get to the rim quickly. If you don't have an easy three, attack, get the bucket.
That's what McKneely did. And knocked away with 12.3 to go.
They're going to review this one, but it was a great job defensively by Jaden Mustaf to get a hand on the basketball, and it looked at first glance as though it went off of McKneely. The officials will go over and review, but the last to touch that is McKneely.
And look who's keeping an eye.
He'll be under review
On this. And a week by with a controversial call yesterday and eliminated Pitt from the tournament. So they review the possession. And did it go off McKneely in the end, which would get it back over to the Yellow Jackets, who lead by 4.
Call on the floor is confirmed. White ball, 12.9 on the clock.
So it will be Yellow Jacket ball.
And Great play there by Mustafa. And there's a rule. If the ball goes down, it's all ball. If it goes up, that means you got arm. It's a foul. And that ball goes down. It was a great job defensively by Mustafa, knocking it off of McKneely to regain possession for Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech, the 8 seed, Virginia, the 9 seed. Georgia Tech was pretty darn comfortable a couple of minutes ago. That changed fast. And so Terry to inbound. 12.9 left. In for George. And he'll draw the foul at 11-8. 11.8 on the clock. And he is one of the best foul shooters on the floor. He makes 81%.
Yeah, calmly made 2 on the last possession. Now an opportunity to make this a 2-possession game. A 6-point lead.
Corey, he's played the entire game. 11 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. That's a 6'3" sophomore with all those boards.
And nothing new for him to play the entire game. We mentioned earlier, played all 55 minutes in a triple overtime win at Clemson and ended up becoming the ACC Player of the Week. After that week, another strong performances back-to-back against Louisville and Clemson, knocking off 2 of the top 3 teams in the ACC.
5-point lead for the Yellow Jackets. And make it 6 very calmly at the line. George drains them. Brody on the drive. The scoop. No! And in the final seconds, the Yellow Jackets can celebrate the victory here in Charlotte. They will win this one 66-60 and eliminate Virginia here in the second round of the tournament.